Today, I'm going to expose 5 traps that sound like common sense, but are actually setting you up for failure. And here's the thing that makes these so dangerous. They all feel right. They're repeated everywhere in the prepping community. Your neighbor who preps swears by them. You'll find them in articles and YouTube videos. But I'm here to tell you, from over a decade of experience and more mistakes than I care to admit, these so-called common sense approaches are costing you time, money, and actual preparedness. Let's start with the biggest trap of all, the one that almost every new prepper falls into, and honestly, the one that took me years to figure out.
Trap number 1, buying your way to preparedness. Here's what we've all been told. Stock up on gear, fill your pantry, buy the best equipment, and you'll be prepared. Sounds logical, right? I mean, if you've got a year's worth of freeze-dried food, a tricked-out bug-out bag, and every survival gadget Amazon recommends, you're set. Except you're not. Not even close. Back in 2014, I met a guy at a preparedness expo who had easily dropped $20,000 on gear. I'm talking top-of-the-line everything. His garage looked like a sporting goods store had a baby with a military surplus shop. He was so proud showing me his setup. I asked him a simple question. Can you start a fire without matches? He couldn't. Could he purify water without his expensive filter? Nope. Did he know how to navigate without his GPS unit? Not a clue. This man had bought every solution money could provide, but he hadn't invested in the one thing money can't buy: skills. 6 months later, we went on a camping trip together. Just a weekend thing, nothing extreme. His $1,500 tent, he couldn't figure out how to set it up in the wind. His fancy water filter clogged after one day because he didn't know you're supposed to filter out sediment first. His high-tech fire starter, useless in his untrained hands when the conditions weren't perfect. Meanwhile, I made fire with the ferro rod, set up my basic tarp shelter in 10 minutes, and had clean water using a Sawyer Mini and a bandana. My gear cost maybe 1/10 of what his did, but I knew how to use it. Here's the trap. Retail therapy feels like progress. When you buy something, you get that hit of dopamine. You feel accomplished. You can look at your stacked supplies and think, yeah, I'm prepared. But stuff without skills is just expensive clutter. And when things go sideways, that clutter won't save you. The truth is, preparedness is 50% knowledge, 30% skills, and maybe 20% gear. Notice how gear is the smallest piece? Yet that's where most people spend 90% of their prep budget. Think about it this way. If I dumped you in the woods with nothing but a knife and a metal container, could you survive 3 days? If your house burned down right now and you lost everything, could you still keep your family safe and fed? If the answer is no, then no amount of gear in your garage is going to help you. I'm not saying don't buy gear. I'm saying buy it after you've developed the skills to use it. Learn to start fires before you buy fancy fire starters. Practice water purification with basic methods before investing in expensive filters. Master navigation with the map and compass before relying on GPS. And here's the part nobody talks about. When you develop skills first, you'll actually save money on gear because you'll know exactly what you need and what's just marketing hype. You'll be able to spot the difference between a tool that solves a real problem and a gadget that someone's trying to sell you. So here's what I want you to do. Before you buy your next piece of prep gear, ask yourself, do I have the skills to use this? Have I practiced without it? Can I accomplish this task with something I already own? If you can't answer yes to those questions, put your wallet away and go learn instead.
Trap number 2. Storing food you've never cooked. This one hits close to home because I did this exact same thing for 3 years straight. I bought rice, lots of rice, 50-pound bags of rice, beans, wheat berries, and dried lentils. I felt so prepared. I had calories for days, months even. The math worked out perfectly on paper. Each bag could feed my family for weeks. My pantry looked like a small grocery store. There was just one tiny problem. I had no idea how to actually cook any of it in a way my family would eat. The wake-up call came during a winter storm in 2016. We lost power for 5 days. Perfect opportunity to use my preps, right? I pulled out the rice and beans, feeling proud of my foresight. My wife asked how I was planning to make them edible. I realized I'd never actually cooked dried beans from scratch. I didn't know they needed to soak for hours. I didn't know they'd take forever to cook without pressure. I didn't have the spices or ingredients to make them taste like anything other than sadness in a bowl. We ended up eating cold canned soup and granola bars because my so-called food storage was basically useless. My kids took one bite of my plain rice and beans experiment and refused to eat more. My wife gave me a look that said, "We're going to have a conversation about this later." That's when I learned the hard truth. Food storage isn't about quantity, it's about usability. You can have 1,000 pounds of wheat berries, but if you don't have a grain mill and haven't practiced making bread, you've just stored expensive bird seed. Here's what nobody tells you. Your taste buds don't care that you're in a crisis. Your kids don't suddenly start loving foods they've never eaten just because the power's out. Your digestive system doesn't magically adjust to a completely foreign diet overnight. In fact, the stress of an emergency makes everyone pickier, not less picky. I've talked to people who bought cases of freeze-dried meals without trying a single one first. When they finally opened them during a real emergency, they discovered their family hated the taste. Others stored hundreds of pounds of foods they were mildly allergic to or that gave them digestive issues. One guy I know stored 50 pounds of powdered milk only to remember during an actual crisis that his wife was lactose intolerant. The solution isn't complicated, but it requires discipline. You need to eat your storage. Not all of it, obviously, but you need to rotate through it regularly. Once a month, cook a meal using only your stored foods. No cheating. No running to the store for ingredients. Just what you've got stocked. This does 3 things. First, you'll quickly figure out what's missing. You might realize you have rice, but no way to flavor it. You might discover you stored pasta, but forgot sauce. Or you have flour, but no yeast or baking powder. Second, you'll develop the skills to actually use your storage. You'll learn how long things take to cook, what combinations work, how to make meals that people will actually eat. You'll figure out shortcuts and techniques that matter when resources are limited. And third, and this is crucial, you'll find out what your family won't eat while you still have time to adjust. There's no point in storing food that's going to sit untouched because nobody can stomach it. I learned to keep 3 types of food. Everyday staples that we already eat regularly and just buy extra of. Comfort foods that might not be the healthiest but keep morale up. And long-term bulk staples that I've practiced cooking and know how to make palatable. My pantry now has pasta, rice, canned tomatoes, beans, flour, sugar, salt, oil, and basic spices, all things we use weekly. I rotate through them naturally. I've got comfort items like cocoa powder, popcorn kernels, and coffee, the stuff that makes hard times bearable. And I've got those bulk staples, but now I have recipes I've tested, ingredients to make them edible, and the knowledge to use them. One more thing about food storage that'll save you a lot of heartache. Write down your recipes. Not in your head, not saved on a phone that might die. Write them down on paper and store them with your food. Include the ones for cooking from scratch, the ones that use your stored ingredients. When stress hits and your brain is scattered, you won't remember the ratio of water to rice or how to make biscuits from flour. Trust me on this. The bottom line is this. Stored food you can't or won't eat is just expensive clutter taking up space. Test everything now while the stakes are low. Your future self will thank you. Trap number 3, ignoring the mundane disasters. Let's talk about what actually derails people's lives. It's not zombies, it's not electromagnetic pulses, it's not even natural disasters most of the time. It's the boring stuff, the stuff that doesn't make for exciting YouTube content or gear reviews. I see this all the time. People obsessing over gas masks and NBC suits while they're one medical bill away from losing their house. Folks buying tactical this and survival that while carrying credit card debt and having zero emergency savings. Preppers with bunkers full of supplies who don't have proper insurance coverage. Here's a stat that should terrify you more than any doomsday scenario. Over half of Americans can't handle an unexpected $500 expense without going into debt. $500. That's not end of the world money. That's a car repair, a broken appliance, a minor medical issue. You know what ruins more lives than hurricanes and earthquakes combined? Job loss, medical emergencies, house fires, car accidents, divorce. These are the real disasters. These are the things that are statistically likely to actually happen to you. In 2018, I learned this lesson the hard way. I'd spent thousands building my preps. I had food storage, water barrels, bug-out bags, the works. Then I lost my job. Completely unexpected corporate restructuring. Suddenly, all that prep gear meant nothing because I couldn't pay my mortgage. My fancy preparations couldn't help me because I'd neglected the most basic prep of all, financial resilience. I didn't have 6 months of expenses saved. I didn't have adequate insurance. I hadn't diversified my income. I'd spent money on stuff instead of building real security. That experience taught me that the prep priority pyramid is upside down for most people. Your foundation, the absolute base of preparedness, is financial stability. That means emergency savings, proper insurance, low debt, and ideally, multiple income streams. On top of that comes the basics: food, water, first aid, basic supplies. Only after you've got those covered should you even think about advanced preparations. Think about it this way. If you lose your job tomorrow, will your 50 buckets of wheat help you keep your house? If you have a medical emergency, will your arsenal of survival gear cover the hospital bill? If your car breaks down and you can't get to work, will your bug-out bag fix it? The answer is obviously no. Yet I see people with maxed out credit cards buying more gear. I see families with zero emergency fund dropping hundreds on freeze-dried food. The logic is backwards. Here's what real-world preparedness looks like. You've got 3 to 6 months of expenses and savings. You've got health insurance, car insurance, home insurance, and life insurance. You've got a plan for temporary income loss. You've got your important documents organized and accessible, and you've reduced your debt as much as possible. Those aren't exciting preps. Nobody's making viral videos about funding a Roth IRA or reviewing their insurance policy. But these are the things that will actually protect you from the disasters you're most likely to face. I know a guy who spent 15 years prepping for economic collapse. He had gold, silver, guns, and a year of food. Then his house caught fire. He lost everything. His insurance coverage was inadequate because he let it lapse to save money for more preps. He had gold bars, but nowhere to live. That's when he learned that financial preparedness prevents more disasters than it responds to. Here's what I want you to do. Before you buy another piece of gear or case of food, ask yourself 3 questions. Do I have at least $1,000 in emergency savings? Am I carrying high-interest debt? Is my insurance coverage adequate? If you answered yes to debt and no to the other 2, your next prep purchase should be paying down debt, funding savings, or improving insurance. I get it. It's not fun. It doesn't feel like prepping. It feels like boring adult responsibility. But here's the truth. Boring adult responsibility is the most important prep you'll ever make, because when real life disasters hit, and they will, your financial foundation is what keeps everything else from crumbling. The fancy gear and stockpiles are great, but only after you've built the foundation. Don't prep for unlikely scenarios while ignoring probable ones. That's not preparedness, that's fantasy.
Trap number 4, building a library of unread books and unwatched videos. I'm about to call out something that hits really close to home for a lot of us. You know that stack of survival books you've been meaning to read? That collection of YouTube videos you saved to your watch later playlist? Those downloaded PDFs on everything from first aid to foraging? Yeah, having them doesn't mean you know them. This is maybe the sneakiest trap because it feels like you're doing something productive. You're gathering information. You're building a library. You tell yourself that when the time comes, you'll have everything you need at your fingertips. Except you won't. Let me tell you what happens in an actual emergency. Your stress levels spike. Your ability to process new information drops dramatically. Your decision-making gets foggy. This is not the time you want to be reading instructions for the first time. This is not when you want to be watching a YouTube tutorial on how to purify water or treat a wound. I used to be the king of download and forget. I had gigabytes of survival PDFs, hundreds of videos saved, shelves of books I kept meaning to read. I felt knowledgeable because I had access to knowledge. Then, during a camping trip, my buddy sliced his hand open badly enough that it needed immediate attention. I had a first aid manual in my bag. I had never read it. I stood there flipping through pages with bloody hands, trying to figure out wound cleaning while he's bleeding, and it hit me. This information was useless because I didn't actually know it. Luckily, another person in our group had actual first aid training. They handled it calmly and competently. Meanwhile, I had the information, but not the knowledge. There's a massive difference. Here's what I've learned about information versus knowledge. Information is what you can look up. Knowledge is what you've internalized through study and practice. Wisdom is what you've gained through actually applying that knowledge. In a crisis, you need knowledge and wisdom. Information by itself won't save you. Think about how much time you spent collecting resources versus actually learning from them. Be honest with yourself. How many of those books have you read cover to cover? How many of those videos have you actually watched and then practiced what they taught? How many of those PDFs have you studied and taken notes on? If you're like most people, the answer is not many. We collect information like we're building a fort, thinking that having it nearby makes us safe, but information you haven't learned is just data taking up space. The solution is simple, but requires discipline. For every new piece of information you add to your library, commit to actually learning it before you get more. Read that book, watch that video, study that PDF, then practice what it teaches. Then and only then get the next one. I've completely changed how I approach learning now. If I get a book on wild edibles, I don't just read it. I take notes. I go outside and try to identify the plants. I make flashcards. I test myself. I actually eat the plants I find to make sure I can identify them correctly. That book might sit on my shelf for months while I work through it properly. Same thing with skills. If I watch a video on making a debris shelter, I go outside and build one. I sleep in it. I find out what works and what doesn't. I make mistakes in safe conditions where the cost of failure is low. That way, when it matters, my body knows what to do even if my brain is stressed.
Here's another thing. Digital information is great until it's not. Your phone battery dies, your power goes out, your hard drive corrupts. If all your knowledge is locked behind dead electronics, you're in trouble. The most important skills and information need to be in your head and in your hands through actual practice. I keep a small notebook now with the most critical information written by hand. Water purification ratios, first aid basics, navigation techniques, stuff I've practiced but might need to reference. It's weatherproof, doesn't need batteries, and weighs nothing. That notebook is worth more than gigabytes of PDFs I've never read. Look at your own collection right now. How much of it have you actually learned? How much could you teach someone else without looking it up? How much could you do in the dark with cold hands and a racing heart? That's your real knowledge base. Everything else is just wishful thinking. Start treating information gathering as step one, not the end goal. The end goal is competence. Competence comes from learning and practice. So stop collecting and start doing. Pick one skill or piece of knowledge, master it, then move on to the next. You'll end up knowing 10 things deeply instead of having superficial awareness of 1,000 things. And when crisis hits, that depth of knowledge is what keeps you alive. Remember, in an emergency, you won't rise to the level of your information access, you'll fall to the level of your training. So train, don't just collect.
Trap number 5, failing to practice and rotate your actual preps. All right, this last trap is the one that catches everyone eventually, including me. You've built your preps. You've got your supplies staged and ready. Your bug-out bag is packed, your pantry is stocked, your water is stored. You did everything right. Then one day, you actually need it and you discover it's all garbage. The batteries have corroded, the food has expired or gone rancid, the water containers have developed algae, your bug-out bag weighs 40 pounds more than you remember, and you can't carry it 100 yards. Your stored clothes don't fit anymore. Your medication is expired. Your documents are outdated. Everything you thought would save you has degraded into useless junk. This happened to me in 2019. We had a close call with the wildfire, and evacuation looked likely. I grabbed my bug-out bag, the one I'd carefully packed 3 years earlier, and threw it in the truck. Later that night, when the immediate danger had passed, I actually went through it to see what I had. It was a disaster. The water bottles had that plastic taste that makes you gag. The energy bars were rock hard. The batteries were dead. Half the clothes didn't fit my kids anymore because, shockingly, kids grow. The first aid supplies included medications that had expired 2 years ago. My important documents were missing recent insurance cards and medical information. The bag itself had developed a musty smell from sitting in the garage. If we'd actually needed to rely on that bag, we would have been in serious trouble. I'd spent hundreds of dollars and hours putting it together. Then I'd completely ignored it. That's when I learned that preparedness isn't something you do once. It's a lifestyle. It's ongoing maintenance and practice. Here's what most people get wrong about rotation and maintenance. They think it's about replacing expired food once a year. That's part of it, sure, but it goes way deeper. Real rotation means regularly testing everything you're depending on. Your bug-out bag needs to be checked quarterly at minimum, not just looked at. Actually pulled out every item, inspected, tested where possible. Those batteries, put them in your flashlight and see if they work. That fire starter, actually start a fire with it. Those clothes, try them on. That food, taste it. That water, drink some. And here's the part that separates people who are actually prepared from people who just have gear. You need to train with your stuff. Once a year, minimum, do a full drill. Pack your bug-out bag and go camping with only what's in it. Try to live for a weekend using only your stored food. Do a practice evacuation where you grab your gear and leave the house in 5 minutes. These drills teach you things that sitting on your couch never will. You'll discover your bag is too heavy. You'll find out you packed 3 of something you don't need and none of something critical. You'll realize that cooking method you planned on doesn't actually work. You'll learn what your family can and can't handle. I do a practice drill with my family twice a year now. We pick a weekend and treat it like an actual emergency. No normal food, no regular power except what we've prepped. We use our stored water, we cook with our emergency methods, we sleep in our gear. My kids hated it at first, now they actually look forward to it because it feels like camping. These practice runs have taught so many problems. We discovered our water filter took forever and we needed a second one. We found out our camping stove was a pain to use and switched to a different model. We learned my wife gets cold way easier than I do and needs more insulation in her sleep system. We figured out which foods we actually liked and which ones we'd rather starve than eat. The rotation part is equally critical. With food, the rule is simple. First in, first out. Put new stuff in the back, use old stuff from the front. But you have to actually use it. If you're not regularly eating from your stockpile and replacing what you eat, it's not a rotation system, it's just stuff slowly going bad. I have a rotation calendar now. Every month, I check different categories. January is bug-out bags. February is medical supplies. March is stored water, and so on. It sounds like a lot of work, but each check only takes an hour or so, and it means nothing sits untouched for years. The same goes for documents. Every year, I update my emergency binder with current insurance info, medical records, identification copies, and contact lists. I update the maps with any new roads or changes. I update my family's photos for identification purposes. It's boring, unglamorous work, but it's absolutely necessary. Battery maintenance is huge too. I learned this the hard way with corroded devices. Now, all my batteries are stored separately from devices and tested quarterly. I date them when I buy them and replace them before they fail. I keep a mix of regular and rechargeable batteries for different purposes. Water rotation is probably the most overlooked. Stored water doesn't last forever. Even in sealed containers, especially in clear ones, you can get algae growth or plastic taste. I empty and refill my water storage every 6 months. It's a pain, but I've seen what nasty water looks like when it's been forgotten for 2 years, and I'm not drinking that in an emergency. Here's the brutal truth.
If you're not willing to maintain and practice with your preps, you're not actually prepared. You've just spent money on stuff that will fail when you need it. Preparedness is a commitment, not a purchase. It requires ongoing effort. There are no shortcuts. But here's the good news. Once you build rotation and practice into your routine, it becomes second nature. It stops being a chore and starts just being what you do. And you sleep better, knowing that the time comes, everything you're counting on will actually work because you've tested it. So look at your preps right now. When's the last time you checked them? When's the last time you actually used them? When's the last time you practiced with them? If the answer is months or years, you've got work to do. Don't wait for an emergency to find out what's broken. Find out now while you can still fix it. Preparedness isn't set it and forget it. It's test it, maintain it, practice it, and prove it. That's the difference between being prepared and just feeling prepared.
So there you have it. 5 traps that sound like common sense, but are actually sabotaging your preparedness. If you've fallen into any of these, don't beat yourself up. I've fallen into all of them. The prepping community as a whole has fallen into them. They're pervasive because they feel right and because there's an entire industry built around selling you solutions to them. But now you know better. Now you can look at your preps with honest eyes and fix what's broken. Start developing skills before buying more gear. Test your food storage and learn to actually cook with it. Build your financial foundation. Learn the information you've collected and maintain everything through regular practice and rotation. Preparedness isn't about having the most stuff or spending the most money. It's about building real capability. It's about making yourself resilient through knowledge, skills, and tested systems. It's about being honest about what's actually likely to happen and preparing for that instead of fantasy scenarios. Every time I make a new prep purchase or add something to my plans, I run through these 5 traps in my head. Am I buying a skill or just stuff? Will I actually use this? Does this address a real threat or just feel cool? Have I learned what I need to know? Will I maintain this properly? Those questions have saved me thousands of dollars and countless hours. I want you to be actually prepared, not just feel prepared. That means doing the hard work that doesn't look impressive on Instagram. It means practicing in your backyard instead of just watching videos. It means using your stored food for dinner instead of letting it sit. It means checking your gear quarterly even when it's boring. It means building financial security before buying tactical gear. This stuff isn't sexy. It doesn't make for great content, but it's what separates people who survive actual emergencies from people who have expensive collections of unused gear. Stay calm, stay steady, and most importantly, stay honest with yourself about what really makes you prepared. If this video made you rethink your approach to prepping, do me a favor and hit that like button. Drop a comment and tell me which trap hit closest to home for you. And subscribe because I'm going to keep bringing you practical, honest preparedness advice based on real experience, not marketing hype or fear-mongering. Remember, preparedness is about peace of mind, not panic. It's about building quiet confidence in your ability to handle whatever comes. And that confidence comes from real skills, real knowledge, and real practice, not from how much stuff you own. Thanks for watching. Now stop watching videos and go practice something.